Federal Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has sharply criticized Iran in the ongoing nuclear negotiations. She said, "Unfortunately, it has been shown in the last few days that we are not really making any headway." She said that at the meeting of the G7 foreign ministers. This is also the attitude of the 7 leading industrialized countries as a whole. In view of the behavior of the government in Tehran, it has fallen back to the level from 6 months ago. This makes the situation very, very difficult. The negotiations are massively burdened. In addition, by violating the nuclear agreement during the ongoing negotiations, Iran had massively lost trust. Nonetheless, the minister said that a diplomatic solution is being worked at full speed, but we are running out of time at this point. Baerbock met with the other foreign ministers of the leading Western economies in Liverpool on Saturday. In doing so, they have agreed on common principles toward Russia, China, and Iran, as Baerbock announced. The G7 act as a group that doesn't work against someone, but stands up for something, emphasized Baerbock. The cooperation is based on the common understanding of a global economy that is based on the values of democracy, the rule of law, and human rights, and is interested in fair world trade and fair cooperation. At the turn of the year, Germany will take over from Great Britain as chairman of the G7, which includes France and the USA, Italy, Japan, and Canada. There was unanimous agreement in the round that China is a partner in all the global issues that concern us around the world, but also competitor and system rival, said Baerbock. One wants to achieve cooperation with China under fair conditions and above all with respect for human rights. With a view to Russia and the Ukraine crisis, Baerbock said that the G7 meeting should send the signal that we are clearly committed to multilateralism and, above all, to international law. That also means taking all measures to be able to return to dialogue despite the tense situation. She named the Normandy format between Germany, France, Ukraine, and Russia and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, as possible negotiation platforms. The goal is de-escalation on the Russian-Ukrainian border. According to Baerbock, the group also presented the priorities for the foreign policy part of the German G7 presidency. The first point she mentioned was the link between the climate crisis and security policy. Climate change is a strong driver of conflicts around the world. In addition, Germany wants to strengthen forward-looking multilateralism so that international action does not only take place when crises are already there. She cited the corona pandemic as an example. During the G7 presidency, Germany also wants to work to make democracies more resilient, for example, against cyber attacks or other attacks. We have seen other possible ones by Belarus at the moment. Great Britain and the US remain concerned about Russian military movements in the border area with Ukraine. In a conversation before the G7 meeting, British Foreign Minister Liz Truss and her US counterpart Antony Blinken agreed on their support for Ukraine, said a British Foreign Office spokesman. Any invasion by Russia would be a strategic mistake with serious consequences. The US has called on Russia to de-escalate the Ukraine conflict. The G7 states and their allies are ready to impose massive sanctions on Moscow in the event of a military escalation, said a US government representative. The foreign ministers also wanted to discuss the global distribution of corona vaccines in Liverpool, partly together with the G7 development ministers. The new head of department, Svenja Schulze from the Social Democrats, and by the way from my hometown, wanted to travel from Germany there. As the richest countries in the world, the G7 have a special responsibility in dealing with the corona pandemic and climate change, and they must show global solidarity with the poorest, she urged before their talks. In the long term, only fair global vaccine distribution will help against the corona pandemic. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.